Hey everyone, ready to dive into some serious tech? Today we're tackling AI head-on, especially for all you coders listening out there. We're taking a deep dive into Lawrence Moroney's book, AI and Machine Learning for Coders.
It's a great pick. One of the things I really appreciate about this book is that Moroney doesn't assume you're already an AI whiz. He breaks down these complex concepts in a way that's super accessible, even if you're, more comfortable with coding than, say, advanced calculus.
Yeah, exactly. It's for coders who want to get their hands dirty with AI, not, become data scientists overnight. So let's say you're building an app and you want to add those personalized recommendations you see on Spotify or Netflix. This book basically gives you the roadmap for how to do that. But before we jump into building anything, Chapter 1 lays a really solid foundation. It reminds us that AI isn't just about neural networks.
Right. It's easy to get caught up in the hype. But understanding the why behind neural networks is key. And that's where deep learning comes in. The book digs into that. And it's like, neural networks on steroids. It's powering things like computer vision and natural language processing where computers are starting to see and understand the world more like we do.
So it's not just about teaching a computer to recognize a cat picture. It's about teaching it to understand, what makes a cat different from a dog or even a fluffy cloud. How do those differences play out on a fundamental level? And that's where things like convolutional neural networks come in, right? Those CNNs.
Exactly. CNNs are amazing at breaking down images into these tiny bits of information. It's like they're analyzing the edges, the textures, the shapes, all those little details that we might not even consciously notice. And this is really important because it helps us see why some data sets are better than others for training certain AI models.
Oh, that makes sense. So instead of just throwing any old cat picture at a CNN, you'd want to pick images that really highlight those key features. The pointy ears, the whiskers, the things that scream cat to the AI. I'm starting to see how understanding the inner workings of these algorithms can make you a much better coder.
Absolutely. It's like knowing which tool to use for the job. You wouldn't use a hammer to screw in a light bulb, right? Same goes for AI. Once you understand the strengths and weaknesses of different algorithms, you can choose the best one for your project.
Makes total sense. Okay, so we've got the deep learning basics down. But how do we actually go from understanding these concepts to actually building AI solutions? And that's where Chapter 3 comes in. It introduces this game-changing idea of pre-trained models. It's like having a whole team of AI experts working with you.
It really is. Think of it like this. You're trying to learn a new language. Instead of starting from scratch with the alphabet, wouldn't it be easier to start with a phrase book? One with common phrases already translated. Pre-trained models are kind of like that phrase book for AI.
Okay, I love that analogy. So instead of training a model from scratch, which could take forever and tons of data, you're essentially saying, hey, AI experts, give me a head start. But how do you make sure these pre-trained models actually fit the specific problem you're trying to solve?
That's where transfer learning comes in. Let's stick with that language analogy for a minute. You've got your phrase book right, but maybe you need to learn some specific vocabulary, like medical terms. With transfer learning, you can take that existing language foundation and add new specialized knowledge on top of it. You're not starting from scratch, but building on expertise that's already there.
So if I had a pre-trained model that was amazing at identifying different types of fruit, I could use transfer learning to teach it to specifically identify, say, different types of apples.
Precisely. You're taking that model's existing knowledge about shapes, colors, and textures and fine-tuning it to become an apple-identifying superstar. And the best part is you don't need nearly as much data or time as you would starting from scratch.
This is blowing my mind. It's like unlocking this secret level of efficiency in coding. But I have a feeling that even with pre-trained models, there's still a lot that goes into building a real-world AI solution. That's where we head into Chapter 4.
You got it. Chapter 4 is where the rubber meets the road. We've got our foundational knowledge, our pre-trained models, and now it's time to actually build something. This is where we dive into the nitty-gritty of data labeling, choosing the right architecture for our model, and making sure everything can scale to handle those real-world demands.
So we've laid the groundwork with deep learning and pre-trained models. But now it's time to actually build something real. Chapter 4 dives into the nuts and bolts of creating AI solutions. And I'm curious, what are some of the key takeaways for our listeners who are eager to start putting these concepts into practice?
Well, one of the most crucial aspects is data labeling. You see, an AI model is only as good as the data it's trained on. It's like teaching a kid to ride a bike. You wouldn't just throw them on a bike without any instructions, right? You'd show them how to balance, how to pedal, how to steer.
So it's kind of like giving the AI those training wheels. It needs clear examples and guidance to understand what it's supposed to be learning.
Exactly. Let's say you're building a model to recognize different types of flowers. You need to feed it tons of images of flowers, each carefully labeled with the correct species. If your labels are inaccurate or inconsistent, well, the model's performance is going to suffer.
Makes sense. Garbage in, garbage out, as they say. But once you've got your data all prepped and labeled, how do you actually choose the right architecture for your model? It feels like there are so many options. CNNs, RNNs. How do you know which one is the best fit?
That's where your understanding of the fundamentals comes in handy. Remember those CNNs we talked about earlier? They're great at analyzing visual data like images. But if you're dealing with sequential data like time series or text, then an RNN might be a better choice.
So it's kind of like choosing the right tool for the job. You wouldn't use a screwdriver to hammer in a nail. You need to match the algorithm to the specific type of data you're working with.
Exactly. And once you've got your architecture sorted out, you need to think about scalability. Can your model handle massive amounts of data? Can it process information quickly enough to be useful in real-time applications?
Right. It's one thing to build a model that works on a small sample data set. But if you're working with millions or even billions of data points, you need a model that can handle that volume without breaking a sweat.
Think of it like building a bridge. A small wooden bridge might work fine for a quiet stream. But if you're trying to span a raging river, you need something much more robust and scalable.
That's a great analogy. And speaking of real-world applications, Lawrence Moroney's book doesn't just stop at the theoretical. It actually dives into some really exciting examples of how AI is being used across various industries.
Absolutely. He talks about how AI is being used in healthcare to improve diagnosis and treatment planning, in finance to detect fraud and manage risk, in e-commerce to personalize recommendations and optimize pricing. The possibilities are truly endless.
It's amazing to see how AI is no longer just a futuristic concept. It's actually being used to solve real-world problems and make our lives easier.
And this is just the beginning. As AI technology continues to advance, we're only going to see more and more innovative applications emerge across all sectors.
Which is why it's so important for coders and developers to have a solid understanding of these concepts. The more people who are skilled in AI, the more we can unlock its potential to create a better future.
Exactly. And books like AI and Machine Learning for Coders are a fantastic resource for anyone who wants to get started on this exciting journey.
Okay, so we've talked about data labeling, model architecture, scalability. But there's another really important topic that Lawrence Moroney emphasizes in Chapter 4, and that's the need for robust testing and validation.
Absolutely. Just like with any software, AI systems need to be thoroughly tested to make sure they're working as intended and that they're reliable and safe.
So it's not enough to just build a model and hope for the best.
Yeah.
You need to put it through its paces, see how it performs under different conditions, and make sure it's making accurate and consistent predictions.
Imagine a self-driving car. You wouldn't want it to just hit the road without extensive testing, right? You'd want to make sure it can handle all sorts of scenarios, different weather conditions, heavy traffic, unexpected obstacles.
That makes perfect sense. Testing and validation are crucial for building trust in AI systems and ensuring that they're being used responsibly.
And it's not just about preventing errors, it's also about identifying potential biases and making sure that AI systems are treating everyone fairly and equitably.
Right, because even though AI systems are based on algorithms and data, they can still reflect the biases of the people who created them.
Exactly. So it's important to be aware of these potential biases and to take steps to mitigate them during the development process.
It sounds like building responsible AI solutions requires not just technical expertise, but also a strong ethical compass.
Absolutely. It's not just about what we can build, but also about what we should build and how we should use it.
That's a really important point. And it brings us to a fascinating concept that Lawrence Moroney touches on in Chapter 4, adversarial attacks.
Ah, yes. Adversarial attacks are like those sneaky little puzzles that test the limits of an AI system's intelligence.
So it's like someone deliberately trying to trick the AI into making a mistake.
Exactly. Imagine you have an image recognition system that can accurately identify different types of animals. Someone with malicious intent might try to subtly alter an image of a cat in a way that's imperceptible to the human eye, but causes the AI to classify it as a dog.
It's kind of scary. It's like finding a security loophole in a computer system.
In a way it is, and these adversarial attacks are a real concern, especially in safety-critical applications like self-driving cars or medical diagnosis.
So how do we protect against these attacks?
Well, researchers are constantly developing new techniques to make AI systems more robust and less vulnerable to these types of attacks.
So it's like an ongoing arms race.
Yeah.
As AI gets smarter, so do the methods for trying to outsmart it.
It's a fascinating field, and it highlights the need for ongoing research and development to ensure that AI systems are secure and reliable.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground in Chapter 4. from data labeling and model architecture to scalability testing, validation, and even adversarial attacks. But I'm sensing a shift in focus as we move into Chapter 5. It feels like we're moving beyond the technical details and starting to think about the bigger picture of AI's impact on society.
You're absolutely right. Chapter 5 is where we start to connect all the dots and explore the broader implications of AI for our world.
So it's not just about building cool tech anymore. It's about understanding how that tech will shape our lives, our work, and our future. And we spent the last 2 parts of this deep dive really getting into the nuts and bolts of AI and machine learning. But what I love about AI and machine learning for coders is that it doesn't just stop at the theory. Chapter 5 takes us on this whirlwind tour of how AI is already changing the game in different industries.
Yeah, it's one thing to understand how CNNs work, but it's a whole other level of wow when you see them being used to detect diseases earlier than ever before.
Exactly. That's one of the examples that really stood out to me in the book. Imagine an AI that can analyze medical images and spot those tiny details that even a trained eye might miss. It's like giving doctors a superpower.
It's pretty incredible. And it's not just limited to image analysis. AI is also being used to personalize treatment plans, predict patient outcomes, even accelerate drug discovery.
So it's not just about making diagnoses more accurate, it's about making treatments more effective and efficient too.
Exactly. It's about using AI to empower healthcare professionals to make the best possible decisions for their patients. And the potential benefits extend far beyond healthcare.
Oh, absolutely. Lawrence Moroney also dives into how AI is revolutionizing finance. Think about all those transactions happening every second of every day. It would be impossible for humans to monitor all that data for fraud.
Impossible and incredibly boring, probably. But AI algorithms can analyze massive amounts of financial data in real time, flagging suspicious activity and preventing fraud before it even happens.
It's like having a super sleuth on the lookout for anything fishy. And it's not just about catching the bad guys. AI is also being used to make smarter investment decisions, manage risk more effectively, even personalize financial advice.
It's all about using the power of AI to make the financial system more efficient, more secure, and more accessible to everyone. And let's not forget about the everyday ways AI is already making our lives a little easier and a lot more entertaining.
Oh yeah, I can't imagine life without those personalized recommendations on Spotify and Netflix. It's like having a friend who knows your taste in music and movies better than you do.
And those recommendations are getting smarter all the time. As AI learns our preferences and suggests content we might not even have known we'd love. It's like having a personal AI DJ and movie critic rolled into one.
So we've gone from AI that can diagnose diseases to AI that can curate our playlists. It's pretty mind-blowing to think about how far this technology has come in such a short time. But with all this talk about the amazing things AI can do, I think it's important to remember that it's still a tool. And like any tool, it can be used for good or for not so good.
That's a really crucial point. The book doesn't shy away from the ethical considerations surrounding AI. It encourages us to think about the potential biases that can creep into algorithms and the importance of using this technology responsibly.
So it's not just about writing the code, it's about writing the code with a conscience.
Exactly. We need to think about the unintended consequences of the technology we're creating and make sure we're building a future where AI benefits everyone.
Okay, so we've explored the fundamentals of AI, the power of pre-trained models, the practical steps for building solutions, and even peeked into some of the amazing ways AI is already changing the world. What's the big takeaway? What's the message Lawrence Moroney wants us to walk away with?
I think the core message is that AI and machine learning are no longer just for a select few experts. They're tools that every coder, every developer can learn to use to build incredible things.
So it's about empowering anyone with coding skills to become an AI innovator.
Absolutely. And it's about doing so with a sense of responsibility, understanding that the choices we make as developers can have a real impact on the world around us.
Well, we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive into AI and machine learning for coders. It's clear that this book is a fantastic resource for anyone who's ready to, jump into the world of AI. So to our listeners out there, if you're feeling inspired, grab a copy and start exploring. The future of AI is waiting, and who knows, maybe you'll be the one to create the next groundbreaking AI application. Happy coding, everyone.